Welcome to episode 243 of the Various Sunday Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio, beautiful campus of Grace College and Theological Seminary, by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is no longer in charge of the hike, John Scott Sloat.
I know, big change.
Yeah.
And I kind of picked a perfect year not to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be oppressively hot tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes. So maybe explain for our listeners who may not know what the hike is.
So the hike is a regular annual freshman activity where they do a scavenger hunt around campus, which leads them to collecting a certain number of Grace College bucks. We have a name for it, but no purpose here. And they can spend it at the store in order to build a boat that they can then race on the lake later on out of cardboard, duct tape. We've had PVC pipe in the past, different things like that. Okay. And so it's a lot of time outside. And tomorrow, I believe the high is 94.
Yes. It'll be the day this episode drops, yes. So
that's right.
That'll scorching hot.
So I believe we're under heat warning, a pollen warning as well.
Oh.
I think pollen is particularly high right now.
Oh. Okay.
And an air quality hazard, I heard today. So the perfect day for outdoor activities.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guarantee you the stay hydrated message will be in full force tomorrow.
Yeah. Lots of water bottles.
I'm sure.
Distributed, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then students might just be plunging their whole heads into the lake to quench the thirst.
Yes. I was discussing with a student today about the events of tomorrow. And I said, it might be hot enough that you may not mind sinking the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, indeed. Yeah, I can already tell my voice is probably not going to last this episode.
Well, if you'd like to get in touch with the show, you can reach out to us on Twitter at VNSPod. If you'd like to email us, variousandsundarypodcast@gmail.com. We'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast and get this automatically in that podcast feed. Make it a routine. Make it a habit.
Yeah.
Increase your godliness. We had a Facebook page at one point. I don't know that you or I check it anymore.
I don't know.
We are on YouTube. You can check us out there. And we'd love a review. Yeah. It helps the algorithm.
A 5-star rating especially.
5 stars certainly helps the algorithm.
Yeah.
And we'd love you to write something. Cheeky, fun, sarcastic.
Yeah. We like all those things.
Inside jokes.
Yeah.
Really anything, but the 5 stars is
that's
most
the crucial
important.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
And then write something. I think writing something helps.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
It shows some serious buy-in.
Yeah.
Well, let's turn our attention to sports.
Okay.
As I'm driving the boat, driving the bus, the ship,
whatever we're calling this,
the pod today.
Yeah.
We had our first college football game this last week.
College football's back, baby.
And we had Georgia Tech, right?
Yes.
Beat Florida State.
Yes, that was an upset. Florida State ranked number 10.
And Georgia Tech
not ranked.
Okay. They engineered a victory.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the only reason I knew about this, I was on Twitter and I was scrolling through. I did not realize college football had started. And as I was scrolling through Twitter, I saw pray for Dean Insera, who's a pastor of a church in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Right in Florida State's backyard.
Mm-hmm. Who's come up and spoken here.
Spoken in chapel. Yep. He was great. Ton of fun. I got to hang out with him a little bit. And pray for him as he helps a grieving city tonight. And my thought was like, oh my goodness, there's been some sort of shooting or something in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
And so I'm like scrolling furiously to find something. I couldn't find it. And then I realized, they lost to college football and this is a joke.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tone is hard to catch on Twitter sometimes.
On the Twitters. Yeah.
Just it was a very entertaining football game as well, right down to the wire. Georgia Tech won it on a field goal attempt as time expired. And there's a little bit of family excitement because my nephew just graduated from Georgia Tech this past spring. Huge sports fan. In fact, he's been on TV multiple times in the stands as a Georgia Tech fan.
So he was showing up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just football, or did you do basketball too?
Basketball as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I usually think of Georgia Tech as a better basketball school than a football school.
Yeah, though they've been better in football the last couple of years. Yeah. So.
And we did was that last week we did the Jets season preview?
We did.
Which there's like a little bye here for NFL. There's like a week absent of anything before we kick it off a week from Thursday.
Yeah, preseason games. The preseason officially ended yesterday, essentially.
Yeah.
So then they get almost a 2-week break before the games.
I don't think any Jets starters played.
Yeah.
Like very little playing time, if any.
I'm not surprised by that.
But we did that Jets preview a week ago with the promise that we were going to do an Ohio State preview.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you have the voice to cover the Buckeyes and to give us a season preview.
I do.
And I'll ask some questions along the way as you go.
Actually, one news item related to college football before I do that.
Okay.
The NCAA issued their official notice of allegations to the team up north.
Okay, so notice of allegations like, hey, here's what we're accusing you of.
Here's the official, like, this is what we think you did. And now the team up north has 90 days to issue their official response to this.
So we're looking November sometime? They'll get this?
It actually falls the week of the Ohio State-Michigan game.
Nice.
If they took the full 90 days.
Nice. Okay.
I don't think they will. They might.
Slow pedal this?
You can only slow pedal it so much.
Can they ask for an extension? Could they be like,
I don't know.
We need another month to investigate, or Jim Harbaugh's in San Diego. We have to fly out multiple times. Zoom doesn't work for us at the U of M.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, okay. I don't know that you can file for an extension on that.
Okay.
So
it's not like a paper then.
No, it's not.
Or a publishing date.
Yeah. Yikes.
Which are more likely to be extended.
Yes. So,
anyway, Ohio State preview.
Anyway, yes.
Let's do it.
All right. So I don't think there's been a season in a while that's had this high of expectations for Ohio State. Expectations are always high for Ohio State. But with the number of players they have coming back from last year's number one ranked defense, they basically have just about everybody back.
What, 9, 10 guys coming back?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they added a transfer from Alabama, Caleb Downs, at safety, who is, by all accounts, widely regarded as he's arguably the best safety or one of the best safeties in the country.
What was that name again?
Caleb Downs.
Caleb Downs.
Yep.
Okay.
So adding him was just sort of the cherry on top.
Okay.
So
a bit of a ball hawk, I imagine.
Yep. Big hitter, great in coverage, just a great back end to your defense.
Nice.
So they should have the best defense in the country this year.
Okay.
So that helps. Offensively, their wide receiver room is, again, arguably the best in the country.
Okay.
They have Emeka Egbuka coming back, who would have been a first-round draft pick this past year.
Okay.
Came back. He will be their number one receiver. They have two guys that have kind of been in the wings, including a guy named Carnell Tate. Big, athletic, strong guy.
It's a fun name.
Yeah.
Any relation to Golden?
No.
Okay.
And they have the number one recruit from the number one high school player from last year, who's a true freshman. Came in the spring, practiced.
Okay.
Guy named Jeremiah Smith.
Okay.
By all accounts, he is off the charts great. Putting up highlight reel kind of stuff in practice. Like basically even the coaches have said he's so far ahead of any other freshman we've ever had come in here. Whether it's Marvin Harrison, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, any of those guys. This guy is way ahead of where they were as freshmen. Elite physicality, athleticism. He will play a significant role. I don't know if he'll start the very first game, but he'll be starting by the end of the year. So they're loaded with weapons on the outside. They have the best running back duo in the country with Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins, who's a transfer from Ole Miss.
Okay.
The questions are on the offensive line.
Okay.
Where they were a little shaky at points last year. I think they'll be okay the first 5 or 6 guys they have, but if they have any injuries, they could be in some trouble.
And what about quarterback?
Quarterback's the other question. Will Howard, a transfer from Kansas State, will be the starting quarterback. Big, athletic, 6'4", strong guy, 235.
Okay.
And probably runs like a 4.5, upper 4.5s in terms of speed. So fast, strong, big.
How can he throw the ball? Does he throw the ball?
Pretty accurate. Yep. He does. Yeah. So a lot of it will come down to if the offensive line performs the way they're supposed to, he won't have to do much. They also brought in Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator.
Chipper?
Yes.
Coming in from UCLA.
Yeah.
Wow. He's having quite the career journey.
Yeah.
Oregon. He just jumps back and forth all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oregon, Philadelphia, UCLA, Ohio State.
Yep.
Man.
Yeah.
So are they going to run his offense?
Well, I mean, Chip Kelly coached Ryan Day as a player. Ryan Day, the head coach of Ohio State, yes.
Oh.
Yep. At New Hampshire. So this is before anybody knew who he was.
Boy, another coast swinger there.
Yeah.
Ohio's the most middle America place he's been.
It is. It is. But he will bring a lot of wrinkles to especially the running game, I think.
Is that a shot at his age as well?
No. No. So I think there is no reason. They have all the talent they need. Again, Urban Meyer's obviously biased because of his Ohio State connections, but he called it the most talented roster in college football he may have seen in a long, long time.
So, what's the preseason ranking for them?
They come in number 2.
Who is number 1?
Georgia.
Okay. What's your prediction for the season? Where are they gonna finish up at?
So they will definitely make the college football playoff. Now that they expanded it to 12 teams.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Ohio State could lose 2 games, and they're still almost a lock for the college football.
Well, just for ratings,
yeah,
they'll make it.
The question is, of course, everybody's looking at. There's 3 regular season games people are looking at. There is on the road at Oregon, who's ranked, I think, 4th or 5th. So that'll be a big time matchup. And they are on the road at Penn State. Penn State's a good
always
team.
Tough.
Yep.
Always tough in Happy Valley.
And of course, they have Michigan at home.
Okay.
Those are the 3 games. Every other game they should be very comfortably winning.
So I know Ohio State, Michigan falls toward the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Where do the other 2 fall in the midst of the season? Is there an early one, a mid one? How does that work?
Let's see. I think the Oregon game is middle of October.
Oh, so relatively early.
Mm-hmm. And then Penn State's a few weeks later.
Okay.
So there's really not much early on Ohio State's schedule that is very challenging for a team that talented.
What Ohio team is going to have a chance to knock them off their high horse of winning all? Who do they play? It's week 1 or 2. They always play Ohio team, right?
Yeah, Akron.
The Zips?
The Zips, which really should be the amount of points they score against Ohio State. Yeah.
The Zips.
The spread is 50.
It feels low.
Here's the thing. I don't talk a lot about betting spreads and that sort of thing, but did you realize there were betting spreads on preseason games for the NFL?
Really?
If you're betting preseason NFL games,
you got a problem.
You have a problem.
You got a real problem.
A very big problem. You need to seek help, right away. That's just what are you doing with your life? Anyway, so I mean, all the pressure's on Ohio State, and they've embraced it. They know they have the target on their back. I think anything short of them getting to the national title game will be a disappointment.
And you anticipate Georgia being on the other side?
Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a lot of players back. They have their quarterback returning, who's very good. I think Alabama should be a little bit down. Nick Saban's gone.
Right, they got a new coach.
But they have they have the guy that coached at Washington, and he got Washington to the national championship game. So he's no slouch.
Sure.
But still,
he's not Saban.
He's not Nick Saban.
Yeah. Where's Nick Saban at?
He's working for ESPN.
Isn't it weird that we don't have Bill Belichick or Nick Saban in football right now?
Yeah.
Bill Belichick's certainly not doing TV.
No.
Could you imagine if he joined the media, how much vitriol would be thrown at him?
Yeah.
Because he refused to answer questions.
Yeah. He's got plenty of money. He doesn't need the money. He's too busy dating women who are much younger than him.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
But it's true.
Yes. It's just be like, why?
Yeah. Well.
Anyway, I have some guesses as to why, but they're not pod.
No, we're not going there on the pod. No.
Let's. Anything else about Ohio State football before we press on?
No, I mean, I think I'm very excited. This is the most excited I've been for an Ohio State season for a while, and I'm cautiously optimistic.
Nice. Well, let's see. They play the Zips this weekend.
The Zips.
Okay.
We'll have a full breakdown next episode.
Okay. Sounds great. We ready to press on?
Let's do it.
All right. So today's topic. What we read this summer, and I guess this podcast signifies, at least for you and I, the end of summer.
Yeah.
The summer of Harmon is over.
When did we start calling it the summer?
I just did.
Summer of Harmon.
after the summer of George.
I caught the reference.
I don't know. Your kid got married this summer?
He did. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, we're doing what we read this summer. Now that summer is officially over, how do you want to do this? You want to bust through my list, then bust through your list? You want to go back and forth?
Let's go back and forth.
So you have more because reading's a part of your job.
Yeah.
You actually, when I did this originally, I had 5 and you had 7, and since I filled this out like 90 minutes ago,
yeah,
you're now up to 10.
Yeah. Yep.
So, do you want to get through all of them?
I don't have to.
Okay. Why don't you start, and then I'll do one, and then we'll just go back and forth. And then if you want to list off the rest of yours, you're more welcome to.
Okay. Where to start? Let's go ahead and start with Stephen Dempster's book, Return of the Kingdom, A Biblical Theology of God's Reign. That's in the Essential Studies in Biblical Theology series.
That feels like a riff on his Dominion and Dynasty a little bit.
It is very. There's a good bit of overlap, but it's such a good treatment of the development of how the theme of God's kingdom progresses from Genesis to Revelation. Dempster's a good writer. He's very clear, and he's very gifted at reading texts and helping you see things that you may not have noticed. But once he points them out to you, you're like, how could I have not noticed that? It seems so obvious now that you pointed it out.
Yeah. He also has the benefit of being an incredibly warm and kind man.
He is, yeah.
I know I took a class with him one time, and you know him from ETS World.
Yeah.
Just a very warm and gracious person.
A great Canadian.
Mm-hmm. I remember I was taking a intensive class with him for a week, and we were going 8 hours a day. I mean, we were really hammering it.
Yeah.
And the last day of class, there was a 1:00 kickoff for the United States at the World Cup. And he let us out at 12:30 for the expressed purpose of going to watch that game.
What a guy.
And that stuck with me.
Yeah.
America went on to win that game.
Hey.
Which is a rarity for America at the World Cup.
That's right.
Anything else on Return to the Kingdom? Also sounds like a riff on Lord of the Rings.
It was a very intentional riff on that. That's correct.
Did you talk about that a lot throughout the book?
A lot would be an exaggeration, but it is mentioned, yeah.
All right, my first book. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I realize none of mine are theology driven, which is probably a good balance to yours. But James Swanson, historian, I don't know where from, but I do know a Jim Swanson.
Yes, not the same person.
Not the same person. At least I don't think so. But he wrote a book called Manhunt, The 12-Day Chase for Lincoln's Killer.
Okay.
Have you heard of this? They made a series of it.
I listened to a podcast about this. I don't know if it was based on that book. It wasn't the book. It wasn't the audiobook of this. But I have listened to a podcast about this.
The audiobook is fascinating.
Okay.
So basically it sort of follows around John Wilkes Booth as he's from the moment he sort of is staging things to kill Lincoln, from when he kills Lincoln, escapes and passes essentially Union soldier checkpoints before they find out that Lincoln's been killed.
Right.
And so he gets out of town and gets to this Virginia town and is basically in the woods or maybe it's Maryland, for just days, with a broken leg because he broke his leg when he fell.
Yeah.
And just his travels around. I mean, eventually gets locked in a barn by some guy because this guy thought he was going to rob them. And kind of at the same time, Union soldiers show up and want to take him down and want to light the place on fire, but don't. And there's just a number of things going on there.
Yeah, and
Fascinating.
And I'm assuming it goes into – this was part of a larger plot. Like it wasn't just take out Lincoln.
Yes.
It was also try to take out the vice president, Johnson at the time.
Yes.
And the Secretary of State.
Yes, with a knife. And they thought they killed the Secretary of State.
Correct.
But he lived
He survived the attack.
The attack, yeah. And the vice president got away because we probably can't get away with saying what the vice president was doing without getting an explicit rating.
Probably not.
They also go into how the original plan was to kidnap Lincoln and take him to the South, and how that was the original plan, was to kidnap him, take him to the South, and basically end the war that way.
Yeah.
Use him as a bartering chip, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is some fascinating history.
Yeah, 1865 is a wild time.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Okay. I'll take a short departure away from the theology and go with let's go with, well, for a while now I've been working my way through the Brad Thor series of books.
Yeah, I saw this. I don't know what that is. What is that?
So it's basically sort of a not spy thriller, but that kind of genre. So you've got the main character is a character named Scott Harvath.
Okay.
Who is a former SEAL who then became a Secret Service agent, who then kind of becomes this like high-level operative that's sort of at the personal disposal of the president, hunting down terrorists and unveiling plots and threats against the United States and that kind of thing. So
just wild.
Yeah, and written by a guy who clearly knows his stuff about special forces and that kind of thing. And there's always going to be an element of unbelievableness to some of that kind of writing.
Sure.
But enough of it is plausible that you're like, I can see some of this happening, or something lesser than this happening.
So does it mostly take place stateside, or is he international?
All the above.
Okay.
Yep.
And is it assassination attempts, bomb threats?
Yep. You name it. Keep going. Yep.
Okay.
One of the most recent ones I read was an attempt to get rid of the Federal Reserve and consequences from that, which,
By get rid of, I imagine not like go through Congress and get rid of the Federal Reserve.
Not through legal channels. No.
You mean like explode, blow up?
Well, basically like assassinate the people, kill the people involved in leading it, and the one I'm reading right now is dealing with a plot by China to take over the United States, and that sort of thing. So
Now, is this sort of bedtime reading for you?
Yeah.
You got it next to the. And are you Kindle, paperback? What are you doing?
That's on the tablet.
Nice.
All of them are available through Everand.
Okay.
So I just keep cruising through them.
Nice.
Light, relatively mindless reading.
Nice.
Entertaining, though.
Yeah.
Back to you.
All right. I've mentioned this one on the pod, so maybe we don't need to do a ton of engagement with it. But Rachel Ferguson, a Lutheran, my only Protestant on this list. Rachel Ferguson, Black Liberation Through the Marketplace.
You have mentioned that, yes.
Fascinating read. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about it. But basically talking about classical liberalism, free economic principles, being advantageous historically to the black community, and how big government steps in and really, when it harms those things, it disproportionately harms the black community. Fascinating read.
Okay. So is that in the genre of kind of the Thomas Sowell, Milton Friedman kind of economic approach to some of these things?
I think so. I haven't read much Sowell or Milton Friedman, so you're going to have to forgive me on that one. But basically going like, yeah, slavery at its core violates the free market, and then goes into Jim Crow violates the free market, and things like Black Wall Street being destroyed violates the free market. Obviously, it gets into a number of those things, and then they talk about like some civil liberties being undone, like the federal highway system being established. Disproportionately went through black neighborhoods and sort of destroyed those neighborhoods. They say. She says that there are just times when most of the time when the federal government gets involved, it's actually harmful. Talks about the minimum wage being very harmful to black families, particularly.
Okay,
it was a very fascinating read. If you just want it was a refreshing take on race relationships in America in regards to the federal government.
Interesting. Okay, nice.
It's a little bit different reading for me, for sure.
Yeah. For my next one, I'm going to go with Paul Williamson's book, Death and the Afterlife, Biblical Perspectives on Ultimate Questions. Just a good survey of what it sounds like in terms of what happens after death, according to the Old Testament, according to Second Temple Jewish literature, even according to ancient Near Eastern literature, New Testament, and just trying to bring a synthesis together. I think overall, I'm on the same page as he is on most of those. At times, I'm probably more willing to see hints of resurrection in the Old Testament than he is. Not that he's like super, what's the word? Super cautious about it. I mean, he looks at Daniel 12, he looks at Isaiah 25 and 26 and sees resurrection, and Ezekiel 37, those sort of things. But there'd be some other places where I might say, maybe there's more. But it's a good overall summary of that, as well as even dealing into like what Greek and Roman thought was in terms of what happens in the afterlife.
And where is Paul Williamson at? Like, what's his?
I think he's at Moore in Australia.
In Australia? Okay.
I think that's right.
Okay. That's an interesting concept. I wouldn't think about that for a biblical theology series, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. My next one, Jeremy Beer is this man's name.
Okay.
And I actually met Jeremy at a conference this summer. So
is that Acton?
Yeah, Acton. Yeah. He grew up in Milford. So he's from Milford.
Really?
Yeah, he's Canadian. Or excuse me, Catholic.
Okay. I'm like, wait a minute.
He's Catholic, but grew up in Milford. Sorry. I confuse Canadians and Catholics all the time.
John is clearly geographically challenged.
This is one of those moments where my mouth is moving faster than my brain.
Yeah.
But he wrote a book a number of years ago called Forgotten Foundation of Fundraising. So he has he did his undergrad at IU, did his PhD at University of Austin, Texas, and did it in psychology. And so he brings a psychological approach to fundraising that's really interesting.
Okay.
And so he wrote really, really well. I really enjoy his writing for the most part. I was hoping to read this summer. He has another book on Oscar Charleston, the Negro League baseball player. And he has a biography of him that I haven't gotten into yet, but it's on Everand.
Okay.
So I need to check that out. But yeah, Jeremy Beer, The Forgotten Foundation of Fundraising.
Okay. That seems relevant to your job?
Very, very relevant.
Okay. Does he explicitly bring any sort of faith framework to that from his Catholic background?
He's definitely a thoughtful Catholic, but his broad appeal is not for profits. So not explicitly faith-driven.
Okay. Gotcha.
But certainly talks about faith-driven organizations all the time.
Yeah. All right. So I'm my next one, Abigail Schreier, Bad Therapy, Why the Kids Aren't Growing Up.
Why aren't the kids growing up, Matt?
Well, it's because they're being coddled. One might even say mollycoddled. Yeah, I mean it's a book that I think she does a good job of helping to expose why a lot of the therapeutic approach is actually not helpful. She doesn't throw out all therapy altogether. She's basically like, the issue is not all therapy is bad. The issue is it's used far too much, and it's far too much of a framework for situations and contexts where it doesn't belong and it isn't needed, that other solutions to problems are available. And that even the therapy industry can be that there's no real incentive to actually cure people or help people or to like solve problems, because then you lose that stream of revenue for them coming in every week or 2 week or month or whatever it is. And so I think she makes a lot of good points. She manages to say some things that I think we as Christians should affirm and say, yeah, she's onto something there, even though she herself is not coming from a Christian perspective.
Yeah. Is it sort of the trust your feeling? Does she get into the trust your feelings sorts of stuff?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that sounds like a book I enjoy, and it's just plain hot garbage. What she's writing about, not her writing herself.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, my next book. I'll break it up because I have another Jeremy Beer book, but I'll do this other one first because I think it goes along with what you were just referencing. But Jonathan Haidt,
yes,
came out with a book this summer, and I'm a big Jonathan Haidt fan. NYU professor currently. But he wrote a book called The Anxious Generation.
Yeah.
Basically how smartphones and social media are ruining the planet. And really interesting, really great to think through for parenting, really great to think through for college professors that are dealing with some of these students that don't know how to deal with problems.
Yeah.
Or even what the incentive structure around these things are. It's funny. In one of the chapters, he has an interview with Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook guy. And in the midst of the interview, he tells Mark, he goes, so I've gone onto your website and created an account as a 13-year-old girl, which or a 12-year-old girl. And his response was, you can't do that. We don't allow people under 13 on the platform. And he goes, I did it about an hour ago.
Yeah.
And he goes, we'll get back to you. And then he said, as of this writing, 6 months after that conversation with Mark, I created another false account as a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be ways to verify that, you would think.
These are the best tech companies on the planet with virtually unlimited resources. Yes, they can figure it out.
Yeah, they just don't want to.
They don't want to. The incentive structure is not there.
Yeah.
They do keep crying out for, and now this is editorializing of me, but they do keep crying out for Congress to regulate them. Mm-hmm. Regulate us. Tell us what to do.
Yeah.
And you know what that does? Well, that creates them in a space that no challenger can rise up to take their place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think and he's been active on social media himself, promoting this book, but also talking about the benefits of the phone-free childhood.
That's right. Yeah.
And I will say I think one of the things that he has talked about that has actually gained traction, not that he's the only proponent of this, but more and more schools are prohibiting phones now.
I love it. I think that's a great idea.
I mean, I've heard way too many horror stories about public schools and what students do with phones in class.
Yeah.
And teachers being fully aware of it and just doing nothing about it.
Yeah.
Like, just mind-boggling to me that there really is no reason a kid needs a phone in the classroom unless there's a specific okay, we're going to do this educational activity that you require it for, like to look something up or okay. I think there can be targeted this activity can be using phones.
Sure.
But
sure.
The whole and some of it's the parents. I gotta be able to get in touch with my kid.
No, you don't.
You actually don't. And if it's that important, the office can get a hold of your kid. If there's something that rises to that level of I have to tell my kid this, you can call the office.
Yeah.
And they can tell the kid, hey, by the way, your mom won't be able to pick you up. Your grandpa.
That's the way we used to do it.
Your grandpa's coming at a half hour late.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways to do that.
Yeah.
So
other people have phones.
Yeah. You've got one more, so I'll do one more. Did I start? I started, didn't I?
I believe you started.
Yeah. So I got one more.
Okay.
To match
Uno
yours.
mas.
Ooh, wow. Got to pick through these.
Yeah, you have 7 other options here. Yeah.
I do. I've mentioned something. I'm going to mention the one that I most recently finished then.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Eric Ortland, Piercing Leviathan, God's Defeat of Evil in the Book of Job.
So talk to me about that. What that sounds nearly like an attack,
Yeah, so Leviathan is the creature mentioned in the latter parts of Job where God responds to Job's complaints.
Right.
And so there's lots of debate as to whether or not, it's kind of like a crocodile in terms of the description. And so there's what you might call naturalistic interpretations of that. It's just a crocodile. And the argument of this book is, no, that's a personification of evil and chaos.
Yeah, yeah.
And that the reason that God talks about Leviathan is it's a direct response to Job's complaint of it seems like the world's out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And God, you're not doing anything about it. And so God brings up that as a way of saying, I'm even more aware of the problem than you are, Job. And I am doing something about it. It's just not on your timetable. So,
it's a fun title.
Yeah.
What is he a fun writer? Was it really enjoyable to read?
Yeah. It's clearly written. Brings in some poetry here and there, and there's no Taylor Swift references, so sorry, Patrick Schreiner. But But yeah, it was. I haven't read a lot of literature about the Book of Job, and so it's one of those areas I'm like, I don't know as much about this as I probably should.
Have you ever been in a church that preached through Job?
Not that I remember.
I don't think I have either.
Not that I remember. I mean, let's be fair. It's a hard book to preach.
It would be very difficult.
You would have to take it in big chunks.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's just it's a challenge.
Yeah.
So are you laying the gauntlet down for our own pastor? Is
I
that
was
what you're doing?
I was debating whether that was what I was actually saying. I think what are we doing next?
Mark.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I thought. I'm excited about Mark. I enjoy the Gospel of Mark.
I am too. Maybe next summer. Summer and Job.
Yeah, nice, cheery, uplifting.
Yeah. So I'll go with that one as my last one.
Okay, so my last one, Jeremy Beer again, and I read he just came out with a new book. This came out this summer on fundraising called "The Quest for Belonging: What Not-for-Profits Get Right and Wrong."
Okay,
and his argument is like fundraising is about our supporters feeling like they're a part of things going on here, and how do we communicate that message well?
Nice,
really, really thought-provoking book.
Okay. Well, there's a partial list of things we read this summer.
We did not mention Patrick Schreiner's book that we did read this summer.
Yeah.
Which that feels like
a year ago.
Years ago at this point.
For sure. But that gives you a flavor and some suggestions for you to follow up on. But it is time now for This Day in Sports History.
All right, This Day in Sports History, August 27th, 2024. Year's just flying by. I mean, it's nearly next week, September.
Yeah.
Not wild?
It is.
Next Monday is Labor Day.
Yeah. Early. I mean, it's the second day of the month.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're going to have to figure out a recording shtick for next week.
We'll get it done.
Yeah. 1952, on this day, having already won the 5,000-meter and 10,000-meter gold medals. Gosh, this is not a good start. Czech star Emil Zatopek, I don't know, claims rare Olympic triple, winning the marathon in the Olympic record 2 hours, 23 minutes, and 3 seconds at the Helsinki Games.
Gotta love Helsinki.
I love Helsinki. 1978, Dutch cyclist, those are some of my least favorite words to have read, Jerry Netterman? No, Netteman.
No.
There's no R in there.
That's right. Netteman.
Netteman wins UCI Road World Championship from Francesco Moser of Italy and Dane Jorgen Marsusian, I have no idea, in Nuremberg, West Germany.
Yep.
Oh, I need a minute.
Well, the next one's a little easier.
1982, Ricky Henderson.
Got that one.
Who constantly talked about himself in the third person.
He did.
Which is one of my favorite things about him. Steals his 119th base of the season, breaking Lou Brock's mark.
And it's the end of August, so I can't remember how many he went on to steal for the whole year. But I mean, nobody steals that many bases anymore.
No, even with the changed rules and the enlarged bases and stuff like that. Yeah, nobody. 2004, China's first ever gold in the Olympic Games men's track and field. 2004, that was the first time they got a gold medal in track and field? That's wild. Gosh. How do you pronounce that last name? Xiang?
Sure.
Wins the 110-meter hurdles in Athens, equaling Colin Jackson's 93 world record time of 12.91 seconds. Mm-hmm. Also in 2004, I also imagine at the Athens Games, German kayaker, Birgit?
Probably Birgit.
Fisher wins gold in the K4, 500 meter, and silver in the K2 500 meter in Athens. First woman, didn't know that was a woman's name, in any sport to win gold medals at six different Olympic, 24 years apart.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Do you know what a K4 and a K2 is?
I'm assuming it's just different types of kayaks.
Just
the length, maybe,
size of the kayaks.
Yeah,
okay. Also in 2004, I imagine at the Athens Games. I remember the Athens Games. That was a fun games.
I do too.
Oslides Mendez, I have no idea if I got that right, of Cuba throws an Olympic record 71.53 meters to easily beat German Steffi Naris for the women's javelin gold medal at the Athens Games.
Yeah. There was another 2004 Olympic moment I didn't put in there. It was the U.S. men's basketball team losing.
Oh, well, yeah, that's not going to get us
No.
much fanfare here.
All right, John. So who do you like out of this? We've got lots of foreign names and Ricky Henderson.
I really like Ricky.
Oh, goodness. Okay. All right.
Ricky Henderson.
One thing you liked.
All right, so I have a weird one thing I like this week. There is a Instagram page called Cooking with Levi. Have you ever seen this?
No.
And it is this 2 to 3 year old boy, and his dad cooks these. His dad's a 5-star chef, like a Michelin chef,
Yeah.
and cooks these outrageous meals for him. And then he places it in front of him and gets the 2 to 3 year old's feedback. And he's so darn cute. It's hysterical. The more recent episodes, his son is getting old enough that he's helping him cook, and that's been a lot of fun too.
All right.
So Cooking with Levi, the Instagram page. Andrew and I watch it about 2 little snippets a week of them doing a new dish. It's just awesome.
Okay. That's great.
And they published a cookbook recently
Oh.
because you got to monetize this somehow.
Of course. Yeah. Well, I mean, we hinted at this, but I'm going to go with the return of college football in general. There's just nothing quite like, and even this past weekend was week 0, not week 1. So it's sort of like the appetizer.
Yeah.
But this upcoming weekend is it is a college football palooza
And Ohio State plays the Zips.
on Saturday,
What time?
3:30 on
Okay.
CBS. How bad does CBS want the Ohio State market? They're willing to put Ohio
It's
State
on
against
national.
Akron on national TV at 3:30.
Wow.
Yeah. But there's games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday this upcoming
Well, they own it
weekend.
without the NFL going this
Right.
week. Yeah.
Well, once the NFL abandoned Labor Day weekend, that didn't used to be the case. They used to have games on Labor Day weekend. Because I remember there was often that was also the U.S. Open tennis tournament,
Oh, yeah.
and so you'd have U.S. Open tennis and the NFL. So you'd have CBS would have their 1:00 game, and then at 4:00 they'd flip over and broadcast U.S. Open tennis.
You watch Andre Agassi or whatever.
Sampras
Yeah.
or somebody like that. So, but yeah, there's just something about not just Ohio State college football, but just college football in general.
It needs to be a little cooler for me to start feeling like 95-degree heat.
Yeah.
That's baseball weather to me.
Okay. Fair enough. But even just on a Saturday, doing some reading, getting a little work done with games that I don't care about as much
Yeah.
in the background, but then giving my
Full attention.
undivided attention to Ohio State games, or maybe like a really big matchup. But
Any big games this weekend? Any highly ranked teams going head to head?
yeah, I feel like LSU plays somebody that's. I feel like that there's an LSU against somebody matchup that's kind of like the top one. That's a top 10 matchup. I think USC plays somebody that. Yeah, there should be some good matchups this weekend. I just don't remember specifically week 2. Here we go. Yeah, so we'll have. Let's see. Oh, that's the following week. Sorry. This is bad radio. Here we go. Week 1. Here we go. Georgia plays Clemson. That's 1 versus 14. I don't
Okay.
think that'll be much of a game, honestly. Penn State, West Virginia could be competitive.
Penn State, West Virginia. Okay.
That's a bit of a rivalry.
Yeah.
Miami plays Florida. That could be entertaining. There's Notre Dame and Texas A&M. That's a good game.
Okay. Yeah.
So and then LSU USC. That's what it was.
What's Notre Dame ranked this year?
Notre Dame is ranked 7th.
Okay.
So 7 versus 20 there. And then LSU plays USC. That's 13 versus 23.
Okay.
So some good ranked matchups for that early in the season.
Yeah.
So, All right, John. We have talked college football. Welcome back. We have talked books we have read this summer, at least a few of them. We have talked about Ricky Henderson and a number of athletes whose names John cannot pronounce.
Have difficulty pronouncing.
Okay.
I think I got some.
Okay. We have talked about cooking with Levi. And we talked about my love for college football.
Yeah.
And so I think, by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. All that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless you all real good.
Later.